All right. Hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking in to this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I'm your producer, Jeremy Carr, here with your host, Heather Pierce. So, what's on our agenda for this one here, Heather?
Today, we're bringing on a personal friend of mine. Her name is Lauren Marchese, and she has been dealing with a diagnosis and journey of PCOS. That's Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. And she's coming on to tell us her story about how she's been dealing with it for 30 years. So turns out PCOS isn't something that goes away, and it's just something that you have to manage your whole life. So
I had learned a little bit about it on this podcast, so I knew what PCOS stood for and things like that, generally what it was, but I had no idea what it really was till we had this conversation. So this is a great shedding of light on something a lot of people don't know about. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it with our conversation with Lauren Marchese.
Hi, and welcome to the Healthcare Uprising podcast. Today we have Lauren Marchese with us, who's here to share her story about her journey with PCOS. So Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to see you.
Yes. And Lauren and I are old colleagues, and we're still friends, and we have our great little text group. So
Yes,
I love
yes.
bringing my buddies on the show. So Lauren, I'm so excited to I don't know, it's just fun to talk to you. So
Yeah, totally agree. I used to love our chats when we were working together and even still. So yeah, it's great to be here. Good to chat with you.
Yeah. But today you're going to talk to us about, you're going to tell us your story with, or your journey with PCOS, which we should say, spell that out.
Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome.
Oh, he's so good.
Yes.
I know.
I learned that here at the Healthcare Uprising. Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, way back in like early episodes. I can't remember which one it was now.
Lauren, we cover a lot of women's health on this show, and PCOS has come up with the interviews or the conversations that we've had with some like startup founders in the women's health space who are, kind of working in and around PCOS and other things like endo and whatnot. So I'm so glad that we finally have like a human stories here show to do, that we can tie back to some of those conversations. So anyway,
That's great. That's great.
Tell us, start at the beginning. Tell us, how did you find out you had PCOS, going back to when you were a young teenager, like the first signs, symptoms, all the things. You can start wherever you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah. So my journey started kind of early. I actually got my first period when I was 9 years old, which is super early to get. And then it was regular until I was 15. And what happened was, with the irregularity, in addition to the irregularity, I should say, was horrible hair growth, which many women with PCOS get, like on my face and on my chest, and also like on my stomach, kind of like what males have almost. So between these things and just by my mother really just said, it's time to take you to the doctor. It's time to figure out what's going on. So I didn't really, all I just kept saying to her was like, this is my normal, and we knew that was not the normal, right? So I actually was diagnosed at 15, which is 30 years ago now that I have been living with this. I was very blessed. The first doctor that I went to diagnosed me right away.
Which is not normal, right?
I mean, totally. Yeah. It's not normal at all.
Not even 30 years later, like medicine hasn't even or I don't know, things haven't improved, right? It's like we hear the story all the time. Yeah.
I know. I've met several women, especially in the last, I want to say probably like 5 years. I'm more open about sharing this with people as I've gotten older, because I've come to realize that it's not talked about a lot, and more women have it than we realize. It's a silent, syndrome. You can't really see it by looking at me. You can't really tell by looking at any woman. And yeah, like I've met women who have gone like a year or two without being diagnosed, from the first time they start speaking to their doctor about it until they actually are diagnosed. And
wow.
I think part of that is, there's, I think, a couple of things. I think one, it mimics other diseases, other things, other um uh, sorry, I'm losing my words. um
It happens.
yeah, it mimics other uh syndromes and things that women have to deal with. So in some ways, or at least the symptoms do. So I think a lot of women I've heard get diagnosed with endometriosis first.
Oh,
And then
That,
that's what I've
and that's
heard from
really
other
hard to get a
women.
diagnosis on too.
yeah.
Right. So, you could be dealing with either or. I think the biggest difference from what I understand, I don't know a lot about endometriosis, but I've heard that one has a lot more pain
Mm-hmm.
associated with it, where this one you don't really have a lot of pain per se.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I know that I am incredibly fortunate to have been diagnosed at a very early age by a doctor who had just kind of, from what I understand, from what I remember, he had just been reading about it in
Oh,
the journals. And I think that was how he was able to put the two and two together so quickly. But yeah,
That's cool.
I'm very fortunate. Yeah.
You got the right doctor at the right time, kind of thing. Yeah. What
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what are we dealing with here as far as symptoms with PCOS?
Mhm.
What's like the primary symptom
and what
group?
actually is it, right? Like, let's like
Right.
even get down to
Yeah.
kind of the,
It's
you know,
ovarian cells that are supposed to grow inside the ovaries growing on the outside of
do
the
you know
ovaries.
this, Jeremy? Okay.
I learned it on the healthcare uprising.
Yeah.
I learned it
Yeah.
here. I really did. I'm kind of excited that I have knowledge of
I
this.
hear that's a really,
Yes,
really great show, just by the way.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah. It's
I've learned a
I've
lot.
heard only good things. Um, I will tell you the way, funny enough, the way it was described to me is similar to what you were saying, which is basically you have cysts, small cysts that grow on the outside of your ovaries. And
Okay.
because of where they're growing, hormones are um, being released in a different way. Kind of. I think that's like the most basic, basic way to describe it. There's not really even a great definition of it, to be
Hmm.
honest, which is another reason why it's hard to diagnose it because you have to look, you have to look at the whole person and what's happening with the person. So I've experienced the erratic periods. Um, I like when I wasn't on birth control, I could go 6 to 8 months without a period, and then I would have a period and it would be super heavy for like 4 or 5 days,
Oh.
and then again I wouldn't, and then maybe I'd have it the next month, and then it'd be like 2 months. So
Hmm.
that's how irregular it can be. Um, like I said, the hair growth was a big one for me. And my hair, as you can see, is very dark. And my hair was growing in very dark. I look like I had a beard at times.
That's rough. I mean,
Um,
being a teenager is hard enough with all the other like basic problems that you have as a
yeah,
teenager. Gosh,
yeah,
I can
that
imagine.
was that was one of the hardest ones. I will say that, and the weight gain and then the weight loss, the weight, like the fluctuating weight. I will admit there were moments of, it didn't happen a lot, but there were moments of leaning towards anorexia to try and
Oh.
help with the weight, and then all of that leads to a lot of mental health things
Hmm.
too, right? Because you're a teenager, you're dealing with your you as a teenager, we already have crazy hormones. On top
Right.
of it, I have insane hormones. I remember a doctor once took my hormone levels and she told me I had 3 times the level of testosterone that a woman was supposed to have.
Oh,
That explains the hair
So
growth.
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And the weight in a way too,
Hmm.
but
Oh yeah, sure.
PCOS also can lead to insulin resistance. So for many women, and yeah, for many women, it is also the idea of you could be pre-diabetic. So you have to be very careful with, what are you eating? And I've now had to go on metformin to try and help with that. So yeah, so it's a lot of things that you have to sometimes deal with on top of the mental, part of it as well.
Yeah. Curious too, like you had those symptoms then, right? You've been dealing with this for 30 years. What's
Hmm.
changed? Like has new ones, like your course of treatment, that sort of thing? Because I know you mentioned
Yeah.
being on birth control at one point. I don't know if you
Hmm.
still are.
Hmm.
I'd be curious to understand like how like as you get older, right? Like being,
Yeah.
in your mid 40s, going through perimenopause, that's going to screw with all your hormone stuff on top of it. That's like
Yeah,
probably a whole new chapter. That's
it is. It is, to be honest. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That has been, it's so funny. I actually went to the doctor earlier this week and we started having the conversation of, hey, look, um, I'm 45. I'm definitely in the midst of perimenopause and dealing with those fun symptoms of
Yeah.
the hot
Welcome to the
flashes, the
shit
mood
show.
swings. Yeah, all of the craziness that goes into it. So yes, that is a whole new chapter of it that I'm just now starting to really dig into. She has changed my birth control level again to give me, I think, a little bit of a higher dose to see if that helps. Because I'm only taking the birth control to keep my periods regular. So I didn't necessarily have to be on like a super high dosage. But now that I'm getting older, we're kind of looking at the dosage to see what is it that we can do with that to help with the hormones that are coming with the perimenopause, because I do have
Mm.
all of those symptoms on top of it. The next thing is the hair growth ended up being something that my mom actually helped me with. Well, both of my parents, but my mom especially. They paid for me to have laser hair removal,
Oh, okay.
and that has made a huge difference.
Mhm.
I did the first round when I was about 20, 22, 23, and then I had to do another round about 10 years later. And I will say I haven't had to do again since.
Oh,
I
that's
do have
good.
to shave, like, I have to like shave little bits here, like here, like, every other day, every couple days.
Hmm.
But for the most part, it's nowhere near what it used to be. So that is one thing that I have been blessed in, that it has somewhat, with treatment was able to help that go away.
That's good. And you
Yeah.
mentioned that you've recent, or maybe this is recent, that you've started on metformin.
Yeah. So I started that about, let's see, it's been about a year and a half now.
Okay.
Um,
I don't even know what
Oddly
that is.
enough, right around the same time that you and I stopped working together was
Okay.
when I was also going through a lot of testing that many people were not aware of, to try and figure out what was going on with my A1C levels
Mm.
and things like that. And so yeah, so I started taking metformin about a year and a half ago. We've had to increase the dosage slightly over the last year and a half, but my doctor feels like I'm in a really good place now. She's very happy with my A1C level. I do need to keep an eye on my diet. For me personally, the keto diet seems to be really helpful.
Mhm.
So low carb, low sugar, really concentrating more on meats, cheeses, certain vegetables. And so that has been what I have been doing to try and help with the insulin resistance part of this
Oh,
of
okay.
this, syndrome. So yeah, so there's that. There's also so I do take birth control. I take the metformin. The other thing that helps with the hair growth is something called spironolactone. So that is
Oh,
another prescription drug that helps, and that is to help with the growth of hair,
okay.
body hair. And so I have taken that on and off since I was about 20.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's the great thing is that I'm blessed that a lot of this is manageable
Hmm.
for me. I know that it's not always for all women, but I've had a lot of support, and I've been very vocal with my doctors, and gotten a lot of support from them as well. So we've been able to manage this throughout the years.
So this isn't something that you really get better from. It's just something you got to learn to live with.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does not go away. Um, I don't know, to be honest with you. I've never met someone who's older who has this, so I don't know what it's going to look like after I go through menopause. Like, I have
Oh,
no idea what it's
menopause
going to look
changes
like. Yeah,
everything.
Because it's all hormonally shifted to begin with. So when you start doing that
exactly.
again, like when you went through
Yeah,
puberty the first time, yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And I went through puberty and it was like like my puberty was long, so I can only imagine what my menopause journey will be time
Hmm.
wise. So I don't know what it's going to look like, but again, I'm very blessed in that I have supportive doctors, who I can talk to
I,
and say, hey, what are we doing? The doctor this week said to me, hormone replacement therapy may have to be something that we start to look into.
I was
But
wondering about that. Yeah.
yeah, but that will also mean, so here's kind of like the tricky thing with this is in order to have your period, you have to take the birth control. So, but in
Mm.
order to get the actual hormone levels that my body has, I have to stop the birth control.
Oh,
So, so that my body can so my body gets rid of the hormones that it's being given, and then it can say, oh yeah, here's what your hormones actually look like. So my doctor and I were talking this week about what does that look like for me? And how will that affect also the symptoms of menopause? How will that affect the hot flashes? How will that affect the brain fog? How will that affect my mood? So
that is
there's
tricky.
kind of there's kind of like a web of things you have to consider before I can start making any decisions moving forward. We'll see what that looks like. I don't know yet.
Hmm.
But right now we're gonna stay the course with a new dosage of birth control, and we'll see how that helps.
I thought of both Strawberry Health and Timeless Biotech.
Oh, those are companies that have been on the
Sure.
show. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Hormone
Mhm.
and menopause related stuff that they're doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to go back and listen because the
I'll
time may
send
come where I need
you.
to start doing some
Strawberry Health
research.
was episode 2.
Yeah, I'll have to send
Timeless
you.
Biotech was back there a ways too. I can't remember what episode that was.
I'll have to send
Yeah,
you the links to those shows. There's some interesting stuff that's happening in the women's health space. And I was thinking about is
yeah.
that you got this diagnosis 30 years ago. So what does that put you? 1996 it would have been,
95. Yeah,
or
yeah.
95. Okay.
Mhm.
Which when you think about it, again, this
Yeah,
comes up on the show often, most of the time, when we're doing the conversations with like the like these health tech founders in the women's space, is that
yeah,
women's health research, like women were not like typically normally included in the health research of humans until like 93,
Yeah.
yes,
like
yes.
insane. Yeah, so which is
Mm-hmm.
mind blowing
When
to
I,
me.
another thing I learned on the healthcare uprising, female birth control was tested on men.
Like
I
what?
did.
I
I
don't even
heard
understand how
that
they knew.
somewhere
Like
once.
had no idea what that was going to do.
Isn't that
They had no
crazy?
idea what it was going to do.
So
Yeah,
So even more, the fact that you got this diagnosis fairly quickly in 1995, no less, when
right. Yeah,
evidently women weren't even being included in clinical studies because
yeah.
whatever reason.
Somehow this had been a topic of conversation. Because again, I remember my doctor
Right.
saying, hey, I just read about this, and you have
Mm-hmm.
all of the classic symptoms of it. I was like, okay. But yeah, it was before the internet. It was, before you could before anyone was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was before, you know, social media where you could try and find other people who have it. So it was really, I think in that respect, it was probably a little bit harder on my parents because
Mm.
there was no, like, I couldn't really talk to anyone about it because I wasn't going to talk to anyone about it anyway at that age. But then on top of that, my parents didn't really have um, any examples of,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do for your child or what can you do to help in this aspect of it? Like my mom had to do research on how to help with hair removal. It started with getting electrolysis, which was, very different when I was in high school. I think that's come a long way as well, but it was kind of brutal at the time.
Yeah,
I
painful.
bet.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, it was painful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think for me, it wasn't so much for me, the lack of knowledge. I think more for my parents. I think that's what was harder for them. Because again, like they just didn't even know, they didn't
Yeah.
know how to help,
You had to go to the
really.
library and like use a card catalog or
it
go to the
Yeah.
Encyclopedia
But even
Britannica.
it
but
really makes
even
it that
then,
much more impressive that that doctor knew what was going on when he did.
yeah,
Because there
yeah.
wasn't
He
the
just I
internet. Like it wasn't like the information was readily available at your fingertips all the time. Like he had to
no.
very directly come across that in a printed journal
Yeah,
that just
yeah.
before he met you, kind of thing. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
cool cosmic alignment there. That like the one
Yeah.
good thing that happened for you in this
Yeah.
is that at least you figured it out early. Like you had a doctor who actually knew in a time when very few would have.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
good.
am a very faith-filled person. My faith is very important to me, and my relationship with the Lord is as well. And so for me, I consider it a God instance. That's what we
Sure,
call them in
sure.
my family. And yeah, I mean, it was such a blessing, like I've been saying, to be able to meet this man, and an older gentleman. Like it wasn't someone who was like young and new to the profession.
Like
I
some
remember
young
him being a
female
little
doctor.
He looked like me,
right,
probably.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was a little bit older
Rasputin.
and you
Ooh.
do have that look, not gonna lie, but I love it.
Little dark eye makeup, and I can do a really good Rasputin.
I love it. I love it. Anastasia is like one of my favorites. So yeah, yeah, I'm very blessed in what had happened. And again, just really thankful that my parents were able to support me even without all of the knowledge that they could have
I
had
had
now.
I had a question that kind of popped up. You were talking about the doctor who diagnosed you, and then you obviously have been, under the care of a doctor or doctors over the course of the time. Are these just
Several, yeah.
regular primary care physicians? Are these OBGYNs or gynecologists?
Yeah.
Like, or
Yeah, yeah. This has always been through my OBGYN.
okay,
So I'm not gonna lie, 15 years old going to the OBGYN for the first time, little like unnerving.
sure.
But but he was great. And yeah, throughout all of this, it has been the PCOS part of it. Let me straighten that out a little bit. The PCOS part of it has always been through the OBGYN. I
Okay.
have a great nurse practitioner right now who through the OBGYN office who has knowledge of this, and she's been great.
Hmm.
The pre-diabetic part that I've been dealing with for the last year and a half or so, that's actually through a primary care physician.
Hmm.
But she's a primary care physician. I did some research. She has great knowledge of women's health issues. So when I went to her and said, we sat down and we started chatting, and I said, I have PCOS. She knew exactly what I was talking about. She knew exactly what it meant. She was able to connect the dots very quickly. So I do think that finding doctors who have some knowledge of women's health, to have a PCP who has that plus the OBGYN together has been incredibly
Hmm.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true for like midlife stuff, perimenopause, menopause, because there
Yeah.
haven't been
Yeah.
a lot of doctors until recently, I would say, that had a lot of knowledge in that part of our lives. But there
Yes.
are more, right? Like there's more, and you can find them.
Yes.
Good old word of mouth. Women in our community are pretty good about pointing each other to the right place, to the right people, right? So
Because now we do
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
internet,
we
so
do.
we can find that stuff.
We do.
We do, yeah. Yeah, and we have more advocates for women's health in as a
Hmm.
whole. Like as a whole. We just
Totally.
have more advocates for women's health. So therefore we have more people doing research in it. We have
Hmm.
more women who, as they are becoming doctors, as they're getting older and becoming doctors, they've seen what's happened to the women around them, and they want to know about it, and they want to advocate as their doctors. So it's be by virtue of talking about these things, which has, only really come to be in the last 10 to 15 years, by talking about it, it has created more opportunities for women, I believe,
Hmm.
to get the right care, really.
Yeah,
And that fills most of our guest slots
it
in this
does.
podcast is these women who have taken women's health into their own hands because no one else was doing it.
That's right.
So now they're going to do it themselves.
Have you
Yeah,
found
yeah.
like community along the way, or, like support groups? Like what do you do to like connect with other people that are living with PCOS?
Yeah, for the longest time, I didn't, and
Hmm.
for the longest time, like I said, I didn't really share often what was going on. Um, Close friends would know. Um, as I said, I come from like a faith-filled background, and taking birth control was not okay for my religion. And so it was also having to. There were times where I had to tell people for knowledge reasons to explain, like, hey, I do this for my health, not
Hmm.
because, not because I'm things off of pregnancy kind of thing. But anyway, where was I going with this? I'm so sorry. Totally lost my train of thought.
What were we talking
We
about?
were talking about community building,
Yes.
finding
Thank
community
you.
in the
Thank you.
PCOS.
So sorry. I have noticed though, first of all, there is a PCOS um, awareness association, it's called. I found it on Instagram, as a matter of fact. They have their own Instagram page. And they work to do provide information, resources, advocacy, help connect women to other women, women of all ages. I've seen some things that they have for teens, but then they also have things for older women who have been going through this for a while. And I've seen more women talking about it online. So I haven't really joined I haven't joined a group, but I do talk about it more now. I was at the chiropractor and somehow it came up in conversation and I said, yeah, I have PCOS, and the girl was like, no way, like I just got diagnosed with that a year ago. And I was like,
Oh.
how's it going? And she's like, oh, let's talk, and I'm like, I'll talk to you. I met another woman who knows a younger person in her life who also just got diagnosed with it. And I'm like, I'll talk to them. Like, let me do what I can to help, spread my knowledge, share my knowledge. Another reason I came to chat with you. So I haven't necessarily been a part of any group, but it's becoming more of a topic. We have this awareness association, and I think between those things, it's starting to have more, just more awareness, for lack of a better word.
Well,
It almost sounds like you're the one who might build the community with the path you're on.
She's like, nope, I'm behind the scenes.
I'm behind the scenes.
You're like a PCS OG though, because you've been like doing this for a while. I could see like how you could just, share your wisdom with these younger girls. But like the influencers on like, TikTok and Instagram and stuff that are talking about these things, PCS or otherwise. That's been good, I think, for a lot of people just to know like, okay, I'm not alone, and it's, they're talking about it. I see that stuff out there quite a bit. So
yeah, I also see, the things on endometriosis, and I've seen more on infertility.
I don't try to say that word, by the way, because I screw it up every time.
How about ankylosing spondylitis?
Oh,
we covered that.
Here he goes.
Whoa.
I know how to spell ankylosing spondylitis now.
More strange human health conditions that come up on the show that we have a hard time saying. I'm sorry, I have a hard time saying.
That's a big pain one too. Ankylosing spondylitis sounded quite terrible to deal with, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But there's a lot more out there. I mean, the point is that there is community. I'm sure there's probably like Facebook. I mean, there's a Facebook group for everything, right? Like if that's what you want to find, to talk with other people and that's your jam, like those groups exist. That support that didn't when you went probably through a lot of this alone, it sounds like, with the exception of your parents, of course, who were super supportive. So
yeah, my family, I also have a younger brother who was incredibly supportive through the whole thing. And in his time, he's younger than I am, and so you can only imagine, like, here's your 15-year-old sister with like a face of hair, and he never said a word, like, ever.
He's like, can you buy me beer? Sorry, everybody. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's funny. But like, here's a 12, 13-year-old kid who just inherently knew, not to say anything, and he was super supportive when I was testing different birth controls, and like one made me like rage out. It was gnarly. And so, I was very blessed to have my parents. And as we started to kind of unpeel a little bit more and tell other people, once you tell people, they have questions, but there's nothing that they can do except for just be there. And at that time there was not much that they could do. It wasn't anything that they could solve, like, no, it's not a solvable thing. So, but I'm very blessed, and I think I'm thankful to live in a time where women's health topics are talked about more. I can only imagine what it must have been like 50, 60 years ago, that if you had this condition, no one knew what it was, no one was talking about it, you probably were just,
suck it up and deal
away.
with it.
That's the suck it up buttercup thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so thankful to live in a time where it's talked about. And even to talk about perimenopause and menopause. I have a group of friends from college, and we share funny, stupid memes about, what today menopause looked like, or,
Right.
whatever.
Pretty sure
And
Heather's got one of those too.
Oh yeah, I get many. I'm like every
yeah,
midlife female influencer showing up in my feed. I'm like, yeah, I follow all of
yeah.
them.
But you know what? That's great. Like, as much as we laugh about it and as much as we, laugh about what's going on, it's fantastic to be having these conversations,
We need it.
to laugh about it, but then to also say like, yeah, I'm experiencing this. What about you guys? Is anyone else
Mhm.
experiencing this? Because if not, then maybe it's something else. But for the most
Yeah.
part, if I say like, I had a horrible morning, when my mood was all out of whack, people are like, yeah, totally get that, kind of thing. And I'm so thankful for that, because I feel bad for my mother, my grandmother, my aunts. Like,
They had
they
nothing.
didn't really talk about this stuff,
No,
like
they
my
didn't.
mom has been fantastic through all of this, and being able to say like, yeah, like your grandmother and I went through menopause early. So yeah, you probably might. And therefore, here's some things you might want, be looking out for. Her mother didn't say that to her. I can guarantee you my great grandmother wasn't
That's
saying it to
right.
my grandmother.
Yeah.
So I'm just so thankful,
Me
because it could be
too.
so much worse. Yeah.
Me too.
Can I
Yeah.
ask a tangent question?
Oh,
Of
okay, go
course.
for it.
Um, Not that it's ever an ideal thing, but is surgery an option for PCOS at a
Thanks.
certain point?
So glad you asked that. I was thinking the same thing.
I mean,
That's a great.
it's ovary based. Like, can they, not that you, I mean, if you want to have kids and stuff, and when you're 9, you don't want to do this and all that, but, or
Yeah.
15 or whatever. But,
Mhm.
if in the end, like, is it a thing that you can just have your
Like a
ovaries,
hysterectomy, would
yeah,
that
get your
even?
ovaries removed? Will that actually take care of it, or is it like carry
Oh,
on without it?
That's a really great question. Sorry. That's a really great question. And to be honest with you, I don't know the answer, but what I can tell you is that it was never told to me as an option,
okay.
ever. Like,
Hmm.
it was never it was never like, yeah, we'll take them out and then it'll go away. That was never something that anyone talked to me about.
Hmm.
The infertility part was talked about a little bit, and how it will
Yeah.
affect fertility, and that type of thing. But the actual talking about a hysterectomy or doing something that would take that option away permanently, never discussed with me.
Okay, follow-up item. I'm gonna do some research. I want to know that
Yeah, because
answer.
it would seem like if, I
Yeah.
mean, it's PCOS, it's an ovarian syndrome at the end. Like, I would think if you took the ovaries out,
Hmm.
it might solve the problem.
Yeah.
You
We're no
would have to
doctors
But
though.
be.
I have no idea what I'm talking
Yeah.
about either. So
And we
Yeah.
I
don't
don't
play doctors on TV either.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, as I
yeah.
say at
I
the end
don't
of every
pretend to be a
episode.
doctor. I don't even pretend to be a great I don't even pretend to be like a subject matter expert on this. I just know my experience.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that if you did that, not only would you have to take out the ovaries, but you would have to make sure that you get every cyst that
Mm.
holds the change, like the
Hmm.
cysts that are sitting on your ovaries. So it's entirely possible. I don't know this for sure, but my guess would be it's not an option, because they don't know if they could get all the cysts
Hmm.
as well.
And then it just causes
Um,
other problems. And
If
yeah,
there is a doctor
Potentially.
listening to this
right.
episode,
Find a doctor to come on and tell us about that.
come on
Yeah.
the show and let's talk about
Yeah.
this. Yeah, we should look
Yes.
into that. You mentioned
Yeah.
fertility, and I want to touch on that
Hmm.
with you because PCOS
Yeah.
can heavily impacts fertility.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
did you like tell us kind of that part of the story for you? Because you don't have children, but that was by choice. So
Correct.
you've
Yeah.
navigated that part maybe a little bit differently than
Differently.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely right, Heather. I know we've talked about this even before I knew you were going to be on the podcast.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Spoiler,
knew
I
at a
already know the answer.
yeah, yeah. I did know at a very early age. I just kind of knew that I was not meant to be a mother. It just was not ever it was just not part of my path, and I kind of knew that early. So for me, when I got the diagnosis at 15, the doctor was really I will say this, even as someone who knew they weren't going to have children, the way that I was told that like I would never have children it was kind of it was a little bit of a um it was a little overwhelming, I think, at that age, maybe
Yeah.
to be told like never. Because the truth of the matter is you can get pregnant if you have PCOS. I have heard of women who have, but I've also heard that it's very difficult.
Hmm.
And I can't even imagine what other women have had to go through. It breaks my heart to even think of what these women have had to go through. So I would say um, for me, again, it wasn't necessarily a part of the path that I've had to travel or deal with this syndrome. But on the flip side, I look back now, and after having talking with my mother a little bit about it, I think the way it was told to me was probably not the best and healthiest for me mentally at 15. So I would say if there are doctors listening, you do need to be careful, I think, of how you present that challenge to women who are diagnosed with this, because I would imagine that there are women who, like me, were diagnosed early, had this dream of having, kids, and we're
Hmm.
told, nope, not going to happen. That's hard. Like that's really, really rough. And so um,
Well,
that's
especially if
me.
you're young too, right? Like you don't
Yeah,
at 15,
yeah,
you don't know your life could be something so different 15 years
exactly.
down the road. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've only heard I've heard both good and bad things. I've heard of women who have had so many issues and it's been super difficult. And then I've heard other women who, you know, it's been okay for them. I've read
Mhm.
different stories, um, and my heart just breaks. But
Yeah.
it's not an impossible thing. And I think we need to remember. I think that's something that just needs to be remembered is it's not impossible. It's tough, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as you're talking, and I'm sure Jeremy is too, there's groups like Rhea Community, Rhea, who's come on the show for that is for women who have suffered infertility or pregnancy loss or things of that nature. Guarantee there's
Yes.
probably a lot of women in that group that probably do have PCOS, right? Um,
Yeah.
and there's ways to have families if you know, so much great technology out there
Absolutely.
with like egg freezing and all the
Yeah.
things.
The in
Yeah.
vitro and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
don't
my
give up hope.
my heart goes out to those women, and
Mm-hmm.
my prayer is just that whatever their hope is, that the Lord puts it in their path whatever way it's supposed to be. I think that, and this is just me, I think the Lord saved me a lot of heartache
Yeah.
by not wanting me to have children, like not giving me that desire, and then on top of it getting this, like I think he saved me a lot of heartache, and I think in a way it's a blessing in disguise. But I
Yeah.
know that that is just my story, like, and that's just me. Um, but
Right.
but I can't comprehend what it is like for other people, and I
Yeah.
don't
I
ever want to
mean,
diminish what it is for them because
right.
I
Yeah,
it
infertility's no matter what's causing it, right? I dealt with it
yeah
myself, so I can speak from, that
yeah.
position that it is hard. Um,
Hmm.
but there's help. So yeah, that's a good. I like that we're putting a little uplifting message on this
Hmm.
for all the ladies listening.
Well, it's like you were
You have
saying,
to.
Hmm.
you're coming out to talk about it because the more people know about it, the more we understand, and the better it is
Yeah,
for the people who have it because they can deal with it more directly, and they can have some knowledge on how to better deal with it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And for the people who are trying to support them as well. I was, I was blessed to have a support system as amazing as my parents were and still are when it comes to all of this. But people, when it's a silent disease, when it's something that you can't see, and sometimes it's hard to even say like what you need, I think for people to just have some knowledge of what's happening in a person's body, and this is for anything. I think if you just have some knowledge around it, then you can just be supportive by just being there,
Yeah.
and having the knowledge, and then being able to say, is this what's going on? Is this what's going on? So yeah,
Yeah.
knowledge is power, always.
On that line, is there something or some things in particular that seem to work best for you and like kind of help the
Mhm.
most that you would suggest to people like start here kind of thing?
Yeah. It's trial and error. It really is trial and error. It's been a lot of trying different things as time has gone on. Starting with the birth control and again trying to find the right dosage for me. Um, Again, when I was younger, the doctors had to try different things. Some did not work, some did. But even now at this age, trial and error, trying to figure that out. It's the laser hair removal, doing those type of things that help you physically. Because if you feel better physically, you feel better mentally,
Mm-hmm.
and then and then these other things that you're struggling with, you can deal with better when you feel better mentally, right? Like if I'm in a good headspace, then I can deal with whatever else is going on. So for me, it's been finding the right birth control, having the hair removal done. The spironolactone has helped immensely as well. The metformin has helped with my health, not only diabetic wise, but also weight wise. It helps a little
Mm-hmm.
bit too. Um, and so that's for me all of the things that have helped over time. For other women, there may be other things that I'm just not aware of because again, PCOS can have like a number of symptoms. I only have a handful.
I was just going to ask that question too. Like, are you aware of other symptoms, even though you don't have them,
Hmm.
that are common with PCOS?
I don't know of a lot of them. Um, Again, I've only like really dealt with the ones that I have,
Sure.
and they're the more typical ones.
Okay.
They're the ones that people like talk about.
Yeah.
Um, Again, the infertility part, I don't know anything about at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know of any other like huge ones. I only know, what I've been having to deal with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think, and again, although it wasn't part of your journey, the infertility piece, I would have to imagine, considering that PCOS does play a big part in fertility, that women that are that do want to have children, that becomes a huge thing, right? Like,
I mean, yeah. Because again, like you can't be taking birth control, but if you're not taking birth control, then you're not having regular cycles.
mhm,
So, which you need in order to become pregnant. So that it's a kind of like a domino effect from what I understand.
yeah.
So I would imagine that the fertility part of this has to be a whole other level of frustration, trial and error, knowledge, advocating for your own health. Like it's got to be just a whole other level that I'm not
Hmm.
aware of, to be honest.
We need to bring some women on to talk about their infertility challenges. I drop mine every once in a while in an episode, but like mine was, I don't think I could talk about it. Well, shoot, I could talk about anything for an hour, actually.
You're trained now. You've been doing
I'm
this a
just
lot.
This is
kidding.
true.
That sounds
This
like
is
a round
true.
table, though. Yeah.
Yeah, really. I mean,
We've done the menopause
Yeah.
round tables. We could do an infertility round table.
yeah, we could just like the women's health issues and stuff.
Doesn't
Like,
sound as fun, but it
no,
does sound as important. So we should do it.
no, we might have to have boxes of tissues on the table for that one because that pulls at my heartstrings going through some of my own stuff, right? Like women, we have it
Yeah.
hard, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard.
I
All
think,
the things.
yeah. And I think too, again, it hasn't been talked about, you
Hmm.
know, losing a child, having struggles in getting pregnant. Those are things that we didn't really talk about much until the last 10 to 20 years. So yeah, I believe any forum where you can talk about it and then you can gain knowledge or give knowledge, either or, at the, and I think those are powerful things, and I I love seeing it happen.
Yeah, we do too. I think that's part of why we have the show too, and bringing people on like you and who are willing to share their story. Um, it makes you feel less alone,
Mhm.
so that that you're not the only one going through this because sometimes, and I feel like I hear this all the time, like going through infertility, going through any kind of struggles with all the various things that can go wrong with our bodies, right? From the time that we're young,
Yeah,
it can feel really isolating, to not have anyone to talk to about it and be like, oh God, you're going through this also. Yeah. So like, I feel like that's been like it's been kind of our thread here today is this is the way that we talk about women's health and how open we are, and honest, and creating these communities like Rhea community. It's I mentioned earlier, they came on,
Yeah.
Monica, founder of that, came on the show to talk about, what she's doing there. Like that stuff didn't exist. I can't imagine like going, well, heck, even when I was going through my infertility issues before I got pregnant with Zane. So that was like '07, '08, '09. There wasn't
Mm-hmm.
anything then. At least not that I was aware of, and I was a pretty resourceful person. So
And as far as medical research goes, that's not a long time ago.
it really isn't. So,
No. Mm-mm.
oh, well,
No.
It's
And
like it's just starting. Like women's medicine just finally got going.
yeah,
Like it's just now finally getting going,
yeah.
yeah.
starting
Yeah.
to
Well, we
start
find
to figure things out.
Yeah. We finally have women in positions to be able to influence where the money is going. For
That's true.
research, we have women who want to find out more about this. We have women who are living with some of these things, who are brilliant enough to start to figure out the why. So we live in a very blessed time. And I do think, I will say, I think we also live in a time where men are wanting to support women in these
Mm,
endeavors.
yeah.
I do think we have that more than like the public or the media would talk about, but I do believe that men more and more
Hmm.
want to help women with these things, and therefore they're also helping to find the money and to do the research and that type
Hmm.
of thing. So, I can't, yeah,
Yeah.
that's just my my two
The,
Yeah.
cents about it.
no, you're right though. That the advocacy from our male counterparts is just as important. So,
Yeah.
we've got
Yeah,
menopause man sitting right here. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, just as, we can be kind and advocate for each other
yeah,
and we can do it all if we're doing it together and we're doing it with the purpose in mind for all of us to be even better.
yeah. I totally agree with you. This is such like a positive note to end on, I think. Look at us, like we're all like bunch of cheerleaders up in here. Go
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
We
yeah.
can do it.
I I would want to, yeah, I would want to say, like, I think if I was going to say anything in regards to specifically to PCOS, I think it can feel isolating. It can feel like a little bit like you are by yourself, or you're damaged in some way, or you're broken in some way, and you're not. Like, you're not broken. You are not alone. There are people who are dealing with this every day. And so I just, know that it's real, it's happening, but it's okay, and you're going to get through it. It's going to be a daily struggle, but you will get through it. And most importantly, you're not alone in it at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And cut. Thanks for joining us on the Healthcare Uprising. Make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons before you go, and take a moment to think of a friend and hit that share button. You can find us on all the major audio platforms, and we've got video on YouTube if you want to watch us in action.
You can also find us on social media on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. Just search Healthcare Uprising to find us. And if you're a new company with a cool new product, if you're someone innovating alternative methods for the health and wellness space, or if you have a personal healthcare journey you'd like to share with us here at The Uprising, please email us at healthcareuprising@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you about coming on the show. Well, that's all for this dose of Healthcare Uprising. Until the next time, keep looking for the good in the world, because sometimes it's where you least expect it.
We are not doctors and we don't play one on TV. If you need medical advice, consult with your physician or a healthcare professional. This has been a Shut Up production.
Shut up!